Authentic Hustle. Welcome to Authentic Hustle number 22. Oh wow, guys. Incredible that we are at 22. We've officially surpassed, the 1%. We're in the 1% of podcasts who actually make it to an episode 22. So congratulations, Colin. Congratulations, VJ. Thank you for joining me on this journey that we call Authentic Hustle. Super fun. And if you guys haven't caught like our last two episodes, they are bangers. Like I would say go back if you're hearing this and check out episode 21 and episode 20, which were both exceptional episodes. They came out incredible. We had a ton of fun. And we're only going to get better from here, guys. We're getting better every day. Colin has upgraded his podcast setup. We are getting professional audio from all three of us now. It's a small miracle. Life is great. This is awesome, guys. And, we're going through some change ups on the show. We're always trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. If you've been with us with Authentic Hustle from episode 1, you know that there's evolution happening. It feels like every single day we've done everything from hot topics to chosen topics to 15-minute shows to, now we're at like a 30-minute show, or from an hour show, I guess I should say, now to a 30-minute show. And now what we're kind of narrowing in on, I think, is that we love to be able to speak to one topic strong for 30 minutes. And so I think you guys are going to see as we move forward, we're still going to do spin the wheel. Things are going to be changing. We're going to be updating it, though, with stuff that's very relevant to us that we can speak strongly to give you the best shows possible. So bear with us. We did spin the wheel ahead today to make sure that we could pick a topic that we could speak well to. But moving forward, we will still be spinning the wheel with you. It will still be random, but we're going to make sure that all of the possible topics are things that me and Colin and VJ are all experts in, or at least one of us is, so that we can come to you strong with a great conversation every single week. I also just wanted to mention, guys, we've been getting a lot of feedback on the show. People really like this show. I think Colin ended up getting multiple emails this week. I know VJ did. I did. People are reaching out and saying, we love the hustle. And so for those of you out there who are reaching out and listening to the show, thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege. And yeah, we're at 22 episodes and we ain't stopping, guys. So we're going to be coming back to entertain your week every Wednesday at 11, as long as we humanly can. As long as you guys keep showing up, letting us know you love this show, sticking with us, we will stick with it for you as well.
There we go.
Episode 22. What do we have in store?
Episode 22. So we just spun the wheel. We're just going to show the audience like what the topic is for the day. So today's topic, everybody, is about what's killing small businesses in 2025. That's the topic.
Okay. I guess the question too is, are we going to be speaking primarily to Canada or United States or both? I do think we have to be specific because there are going to be things maybe that are hurting small business in Canada that are very different than things that are hurting small business in the United States. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, maybe we should define small business. Is it number of employees? Is it revenue? Is it, what are we, we should focus in on one. Because small business is a little bit different to different people.
Yeah. Would you maybe say that a small business could be a new business? Should we say maybe what's hurting startups or what's hurting new entrepreneurs? I get that like that doesn't cover the full gamut, but when I think of small business, I think what I typically think of is like solopreneurs, small businesses, 5 employees or less, or new startups that are just kind of getting on their feet. What do you think?
Well, it's I'm torn because I keep reading about how there's going to be these AI developed companies, one-person companies selling for $1 billion valuation.
Yeah.
Right? So one person could be a small company. And then I look at what I think the small businesses that are going to die or dying are some of the mom and pops, right? That have started. They've never moved out.
Yeah.
They've just haven't had the ability to do that. They haven't scaled. And also new, for sure, are going to die before they even get their legs. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know. Go ahead, Kelly. No,
so
it's
sir,
tough.
after you.
Like I know I said we need to focus, and then I throw all that verbal diarrhea out there on and it could be a million different things. So it's a tough one because small business to me, it's I think we need to define what we're focusing on by small
Yeah.
business and then hit that.
Yeah, why don't for the sake of this show, Colin, why don't we just call it solopreneurs, right? Like
Sure.
the people just getting into business, like you mentioned. Let's call it, small businesses. I would say let's call it 10 employees or less, maybe retail stores, maybe mom and pops, like you mentioned, or companies just getting started. I think that also maybe would be relevant because many companies just getting started simply don't make it to 5 years.
Sure, let's go.
Okay. So I want to start with retail actually, because it's funny, I live in a smaller town. We've moved out of Edmonton. We live in kind of a suburb of Edmonton called Stony Plain. Actually, it's kind of cool story. I grew up in Stony Plain. So as a little kid, I lived in an acreage just outside of this town. And then obviously we moved to Spruce Grove, spent a lot of my time in Spruce Grove, went to Edmonton for a while, did the whole thing, and now back home, back to Stony Plain. But it's an old town, guys. Like if you haven't been to Stony Plain, literally it is the definition of a one horse, one street town. Main Street is pretty much the same, I think, as it's been from like 1905. Like there's still like the old buildings. It's kind of set up as like a main street kind of thing, but it's neat. Like being in old Stony Plain is a lot like being in the olden days. But you see all of these little retail stores, right? Along Main Street. And I get like maybe Stony Plain's a little bit of a different example, being old and kind of Main Street. And a lot of people here shop here, so they get customers. But one of the questions that comes to my mind all the time is how are people launching retail stores? Like, it just blows my mind because the cost of a space is just going up and up and up. And keep in mind, I'm talking Canada, but I imagine this is just as relevant in the United States. And the cost of retail space is just going up and up and up. I'm sure most of these leases on these buildings is probably north of $5,000 a month for their rent. And yet who's going to these stores? Like that just keeps going through my mind is how are these like retail stores even staying open?
Well, and I've heard the term retail jail, right? Is you work in retail jail. And there's two ways to look at it is, I'll call it the mom and pop or whatever the small business that is in retail. The difference now is they used to close a couple days a week. Maybe it was a Sunday, Monday, still operate their 5 days.
Yeah.
Now, due to online commerce or Amazons of the world or any online retail, you have to stay open 7 days a week, right? You need foot traffic. Well, now how do you get foot traffic? To me, almost impossible to get enough foot traffic to make it work. And that leads into, and then I'll spin it off to someone else. You need the foot traffic. You are competing with online e-commerce, I guess. And the other, like you said, the increasing rent cost, the real estate, right? The bricks and mortar are killing you. So that's my intro into it. Anyway, it's I don't want to put a bleak outlook on it, but I keep saying to my wife and kids, we talk about business all the time. And I said, I've always said, unfortunately, small business will always be small business when it's looked at that way. And that's why I call it retail jail, right? When you're looking at retail, it's very, very hard to compete with the big box corporate bank accounts. To compete with the 7 day a week online business.
It's interesting from the standpoint of I don't think that I would go down that path, at least not for a new retail store. Like I wouldn't be like a source, like a source or whatever, where you're selling electronics or something like that, where you're being told what your prices have to be. I don't know. All the sources in Stony Plain, Spruce Grove that I've seen in Edmonton, they've all converted over to like Best Buy. I think they literally sold out to Best Buy, obviously. And even those little tiny stores are going away, right? It's like, you really either need to be that big box store. If you're going to be a retail outlet, I guess I think about it from the standpoint of if I'm buying an electronic, if I don't need it today, I am ordering it on Amazon. Like that's just the world we live in.
So can I tell you something just happened? Best Buy is not a small business, but operating like a small business. I went into Best Buy my days are all screwed up. It doesn't feel like a Wednesday. So I went in on Monday afternoon and I wanted to get a new pair of headphones.
Yeah.
So I walked up and down the 2 aisles they have of headphones, and they have a lot of them. I tried a bunch on. I kind of did one of these like, hello, live person. I actually have the headphones on my head and there's no one like coming over. Somebody walks by me and I'm like, oh, excuse me, could you tell me about these headphones? Well, it's right there on the little card. Fuck, I see that. So after about 20 minutes of amusing myself, saying, hey, that's good sound. This is good, right?
Yeah.
I went home and I ordered on Amazon these, and they appeared on Canada Day, right? No days off. Online, there's no days off. They appeared and they were $100 less.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
For the exact same pair.
I
And
don't know,
I'm
guys.
wearing them.
Yes. You're wearing them the next day. Yeah.
But Best Buy is not what we call per se small business, but it's operating like a small business.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Amazon just has them all beat with regards to like nobody can seem to take any market share from Amazon. Like, unless, like I said, unless I need something today and I need that physical product, I'm probably not going to a store for it. And I don't know what that means for the future of retail. I could just see it, guys. I could see the day going completely away where like these retail stores end up just becoming coffee shops or restaurants or something where people have to attend in person. But I kind of feel like if you don't have to attend a store in person, long term at this point, it is simply not going to work out. Although I am going to give a little bit of a caveat, because I do see one type of business doing really, really well. And I'm going to shout out a local company here in Stony Plain called One Man's Treasure. Now, what this is I'm sure in Edmonton, you guys have seen Old Strathcona Antique Mall or something along those lines, where what it is it's the reselling of used goods. And I'm seeing those stores doing extremely well. And I think it's funny because I was talking to Shelby and she's like, if I ever start a store, that's what I would start. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. Because at this point, you can get your products for next to nothing. You can sell them for next to nothing and still make a profit. And people can't buy it online. I guess they can, but once again, a used product is a used product. And we used to say it in the old days when I worked at a car lot. You have to buy a used car because from that car lot, because that's the only one you'll find just like that at that place. It's the same kind of thing, I think, with retail. And so I would say that if you are going to launch a retail store in 2025 and beyond, think about it from the standpoint of don't sell things people can get everywhere. If they can get it everywhere, they can get it on Amazon. You're out of luck. But if you can sell stuff that people can't get everywhere and they are forced to come to your captive store, I think you can not only build people that are loyal to your store, but you will do well as well.
Well, you know what? My sister's one of her stepsons. He's young. He was going to school to be a teacher, and he decided to open a bricks and mortar resale store, and it's called Pop and Tags, right? Yeah. And he's 5 years in with this store, and he like sells everything from Lululemon to whatever there is, right? And he cranks it out, and now he's opened a second location of used sports equipment.
Wow. Yeah.
And he based it on, he was a basketball coach for high school. And he said every kid, from the 5th grade on is changing shoes every single year. They're used for like 2 months, right? And then the kid outgrows them or he stops playing or whatever that may be. And he's doing phenomenal. And as a matter of fact, I bought a set of golf clubs from him. I texted him, I'm like, do you have any left-hand golf clubs? And he's like, these are these. And I was there. And you're right. And that's a business where I think on the proper marketing, he can create a scarcity.
Absolutely.
Right? Marketing. Hey, I've only got 2 pairs of these, or I've only got this.
Absolutely.
Come now, and he can charge more.
Yep.
Because that's all he's got.
And I got to be honest, I'm a little bit pissed off at the Value Village side of this, and no hate on like Value Village. I get it.
They're brilliant.
But exactly. But like the standpoint of is that they sell stuff for damn near retail prices and they're getting it for free. And it's a private company. That really drives me a little bit bonkers. Like I really don't like that model. I think that for something like Value Village, it should really be done for the good of the community, not for the good of somebody's pockets, especially when you're getting your product for free. I really don't like that model. And like I said, I get it's not just Value Village. There's lots of companies popping up like that. But I think like that should be really reserved for the mom and pops. And the mom and pops, if they're making a profit, right? I also think a lot of those mom and pop shops that are making a profit selling used stuff, they're still going to go out and hunt it. Like Shelby used to sell vintage clothing, and she would actually go out and she would buy that product, make sure that she's getting the right stuff, and then she would resell it on her online store. I think that should be the model that these companies should take on, right? If you're getting free stuff and you're reselling it, that in my mind, that needs to be for the good of the community, not for the good of somebody's pockets.
Can you, I have to put this in there. Can you imagine whoever owns Value Village, maybe they'll listen one day, the conversation they're having in their back.
They're like stupid authentic hustle.
No, but they're in their back room going, can you believe this actually works?
I'm sure they are.
Give us their stuff and we sell it for a premium.
Yes. Right? Yes. And oh yeah, and then they give you their like 30% off coupon, but it's like, dude, you got the stuff for free. Of course,
that I never
100% off.
I never take the coupon, right? Because I'm like, I'm not buying my stuff back.
Oh goodness. Okay. Let's shift gears. We've been talking so much about retail. We're halfway through. Let's shift gears to services and like service-based companies, because you know, when you look at a lot of startup companies, that's what they are. They're service-based companies. Colin, lead us off.
Well, so I was thinking of one is I remember growing up in the hairstylist in town, every kid got the same haircut, right? You went to that lady and she gave every kid the same haircut. There was one haircut. This is what you're getting, right? Or the barber, right? There was always Tony the barber or somebody. Well, what happened? That's like the Tommy Guns of the world or the Supercuts or whatever they're called. Those are no different than online e-commerce. Right? They can do it. They hire people. They have the systems, and they can afford. You know, overall, they can afford. They can get approval to sign the leases. I guess you'll say that's one service, right? And then you go down into single service. And I'll use my daughter's boyfriend. He has auto detailing, but he's one guy and he has a part-time employee, and he kills it. He really does. The problem being is the second you hire a third person, your margin just plummets.
Yeah.
So he's having to work 6 days a week. He does really well, but that is retail jail, but in a service bucket, right? He still has to do the work himself to make it worth it. And it's really burning him out.
Yeah. Like, what if we shifted this to something like an accountant, you know, or someone like me who's a consultant, right? What do you think is the biggest cause of failure for a new service-based firm, whether it be professional services or like it could be like mechanic shops or anything like those lines, where ultimately they're opening a business to provide a service to the public? What do you think is their biggest cause of failure?
They don't have enough time. It's very simple. There's no shortage of business. You can get the business. There's not enough hours in the day to do the work. AI might help for sure, but you know, Kelly, as a consultant and everything you've got going on, you could work 24 hours a day and still not get the work done. Yeah. Right. And on the other end, you're selling value, but how much are you selling that for? Are you better off to have one customer for $50,000 a month, but that's not real, right?
Yeah.
Or do you have to have 50 customers at $1,000 a month? Well, 50 at $1,000 a month, there's not enough hours in the day.
That's right.
Right. Same revenue. And now the second you add people to work with you, well, you may as well just have one customer at $50,000 a month.
And then the alternate to that is getting that one customer at 50,000. You better be able to provide a ton of value, right? Like you better be printing the money on gold bars, man. Like you got to be able to show that you are worth that, which is really hard for a lot of new businesses.
I just wanted to like add a couple points in terms of like the whole retail, and I'll pan into the consulting thing. Just my observation, I could be wrong, between US and Canada is like McDonald's was a small business, right? When it started originally, I saw that Founder movie. I don't know how much of that is exactly quote unquote real, but it kind of like paints the picture for us. So it started as a small business, but grew as a franchisee, like more locations and whatnot. They have the most number of real estate locations after the Anglican Church, right? That's what I heard. So that is a great model for the main street businesses to even look at in terms of like scale, right? One personal example is I live in Wetaskiwin. There I saw a real example in terms of like in my own eyes. There was a brand new dollar store, right? They called it the dollar store or something, and it was beautiful. It was good, very friendly. They had everything that they needed, like the dollar store, and it was beautiful, right? And they started it. 3 months in, right? 3 months in, and opposite to them, the Dollarama, which is like the chain, the big box dollar store. 3 months in, exact opposite to their store was Dollarama, and no one was started going to the dollar store, but everyone knew Dollarama, and they would only go to Dollarama, and guess what? Like 8 months, 10 months in, this shop is like almost it doesn't exist anymore, and people don't go there as much. So that's a problem, right? I mean, like the big box stores have their way. It is challenging. Even though I love Amazon, I use it also. I love capitalism, guys. I love capitalism. I think that is one of the profound ideas that humanity has created. I love it in terms of like if humanity has to thrive, I think it is through capitalism, right? It's not through wasteful spending or anything like that. But I see a problem with capitalism. Especially with Amazon kind of stores. It's like I exist, only I should exist. It's a kind of a problem. Right, because capitalism is great, but if you're a crony capitalist, because if only you should exist, that's kind of I'll paint the picture for Amazon. Because if you're selling on Amazon, Amazon gets to see what you're selling at and what's your margin, from whom you're sourcing, and what is your like turnover and how much quantity you have. They have all the metrics and the data. And what happens after a year or two, or if it's a great selling product, Amazon does a spin-off. They launch their own Amazon Basics kind of a product. Not that I'm like dumping Amazon, but I think this is what they do. This is what Walmart does with the great value and things like that. Costco does it with Kirkland, right? So what happens for the average marketplace player is like they have no room to play. Amazon is playing with billions of dollars. The average player is playing with probably hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars, right? So it's a big money versus small money kind of a play. So I don't know how to beat that. And I've also had some observations in terms of like the Wall Street taking over the Main Street. I've seen time and time again in terms of like Boeing, for example. It's an organization. A lot of planes started like falling out of the air, like too many accidents and whatnot. Guess what? Because the CEO was a Wall Street guy, and he was not a like aeronautical engineer. He knew nothing about flying planes. All he knew about like Excel sheets, right? So that is a problem. So these are some observations. But in terms of like giving hope back to the small business owner, whether you're on Main Street or you're just starting out, I mean, if you're approaching technology, it automatically comes with scale. Because from day one, I've been like delivering software for people. The scale comes naturally to me in terms of like when you're applying or delivering a solution. Because when you're using cloud and these kind of like technological tools, you automatically have scale and you'll be able to expand. Don't think one store, one box at a time. If you're already in the Main Street, offer a way to also sell it on e-commerce, right? Offer a way to also compete with Amazon. You're not, because every small Main Street business is competing with Amazon. You got to compete better, probably sell better products that give great value. One small business I know out of Edmonton is Macefield Appliances, Kelly. I mean, like to your point, they're reselling appliances, right? I've been at their store, great store. They're doing really well. So I like those kind of like innovative retail solutions. So just wanted to give a shout out to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, just gigantic shout out to Luana and her husband. They do an incredible job at Mazefield. She's been a huge supporter of my work from like day go. Yours as well. It sounds like VJ. So shout out to Luana Burns and Mazefield Appliances in Edmonton. You know, I was just thinking, VJ, what you were saying about like you need to create a competitive advantage. I think at scale is where people start to struggle with the competitive advantage, because I think the competitive advantage that a small business has are the people, right? If you look at any small business, they say my employees are like family. They look after you like family. They know the owner. Luana Burns is a great example in this particular case with Mazefield, right? That is the advantage. You are the thing that cannot be replaced. Amazon cannot make a VJ, it cannot make a Colin, and it cannot make a Kelly. We are individual people. Our brands, our products, our companies are reflections of who we are and how we do business and how we show up every single day. This show is something that Amazon cannot replace. Sure, they could make another show, but it'll never be Authentic Hustle, and it'll never have Kelly, Colin, and VJ unless they want to pay us some money. By the way, shout out to Amazon. If they want to pay us money, we'll take it.
Hey.
But the
Hey,
point
welcome to Authentic Amazon.
But the point is that is your competitive advantage. As a small business, you are your greatest advantage. And I think you need to leverage yourself as much as humanly possible, whether that's starting a podcast, whether that's just being a thought leader, showing up on Amazon and selling yourself, and realizing that people buy people, not services and products. And so if you can make yourself valuable, that's going to guarantee your success long term.
Well,
Yeah,
one thing one thing I loved what Neville Ravikant said is I am a huge fan of his work, and he said try and productize yourself how much ever possible, right? Find a way, whatever you know, whatever skills you know, whatever you can do, try and productize yourself. I think that is a fantastic idea, whether you're a solopreneur or otherwise, doesn't matter. And if you can sell something for $100, go ahead and do it. I think that's the future, because no one can beat you at you being you, right? So that's you said, Kelly. So I think that is the future I'm definitely hopeful about, right?
Well, and we're all great examples of this, right? At this point, each one of us has been a thought leader in our own right for a couple of years now. We're going out. Obviously, the other side to this is that, just for the listeners, so you're aware, these things do not make a ton of money. They just don't. The BDP doesn't, Pathfinder's not yet. Authentic Hustle, like I said, Amazon, we're waiting.
Hey, we'll do a featured episode.
The point is that this is just part of modern business. I genuinely believe that. The reality is the services I sell have really nothing to do with this show. That even with the BDP, it's really not the same stuff. My business development services, the community we're building, things along those lines, the coaching, it just simply is very different than this. However, this was required to build Kelly Kennedy to somebody people knew and somebody people could trust and somebody people knew would show up week over week over week. Same thing that VJ is doing with Pathfinders. Same thing Colin's doing here with Authentic Hustle and soon to be the Blue Sky podcast, right? He's showing up and doing this stuff because it is just part of building our personal brands. It's making people aware of who we are, what we do, why we're fun, why we're awesome people, right? But you can't do that if you're not willing to show up. And I think that's maybe the sucky thing about this modern day. And I'm not going to hate on this and say that this glamorize it and say that this is just the greatest thing ever, because no, it's a lot of work. The reality is this is a lot of friggin' work that nobody signed up for. I know I didn't sign up to be, a social media influencer. That wasn't even remotely part of business plan number one. I can tell you that for sure. However, what I can say is in 2025 and beyond, if you're not doing something like this, you are being left behind. Nobody's learning about you. Nobody's knowing why you're valuable, who you are, why they should trust you. It sucks, but I think that there's a lot of marketing, and I'm not going to say that marketing never was required. Obviously, it's always been required. But I would say that marketing has been kicked up a notch to the point where, in an ideal world, Colin, you talked about this, we would just be doing the thing we do best every single day. Colin would be manufacturing 100 vac trucks a month and just living life in Mexico or something, right? VJ, he's selling $2 million in software every month, doing whatever the hell he wants. And, I could just continue to do coaching and BD or whatever else, who knows, whatever. But the point is that the things that pay tend to actually be the least amount of what we have to do in this modern age, which I don't know. I don't know whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. The other thing I think we should touch on too quick here before we end is the hard part for small business is capitalization, is financing.
Yeah.
Right? You go to a lender or whatever you're going to do, you're really bootstrapping, self-funding it. And if you're not, somebody else is controlling it, which is fine. That works too. But it's being pulled away from you. So I think that's a hurdle that's killing small business is capitalization, right? It's a tough one. And whether it's, there's quite a few outlets out there, and I listen to quite a few. Kelly, you've had some great interviews with them. But the hard part is qualifying for them, being able to sustain it, having a business plan, right? Because they're just trying to make it every single day. And I think we do need them, It's just, I think, I just realization of, I think it's going to get more difficult than easy for those people.
Well, and when I started Capital, and take this with a grain of salt or whatever else you guys want to do, but I realized that, I was bootstrapping my own company. I only had 10 grand to do it, period, for everything. That included all my gear, all my setup, everything, the website. Like, my God, it's incredible I even did it. But the point is that we needed to be profitable immediately. We needed to be profitable immediately, which is why we launched with a service. And I would say that if you are launching a business, don't take that age old feedback that's like, oh, you have to go broke to launch a business. That is simply not true.
Not true.
If you launch a service-based business and you take payment upfront, you can be profitable month one. So don't listen to everybody who says you have to go broke to start a business. That is absolute bullshit. It is wrong. You can absolutely start a business and be profitable month one if you set it up correctly. And a service is a great way to do that. If you can provide some level of personal service, even if long-term you want to provide a product or like a physical product, start with a service that you can be profitable immediately and work yourself from there.
Yeah, I'll my last comments too for sure will be it's billable hours, right? How can you bill out something that you're doing so you can actually get paid? Otherwise you're swimming upstream, which is really, really hard. And it'll be hard anyway. Business is hard. It's just choose your hard.
Yeah. VJ, anything before we wrap it up?
The closing comments is like, raising capital is definitely a challenge. I've seen it. I never knew anything about it because I never raised capital before. I was always been in the service industry, providing service and whatnot. But I think having access to capital is a challenge. There are millions of great products out there. I'm meeting so many people that have wonderful ideas. I met with one person yesterday. I don't want to reveal what he's doing, but like, great idea again. Having access to capital at the right time. Because like otherwise, like in a year or 6 months, like the big box takes over, right? And it's over and over again. So it's kind of sometimes discouraging not having access to enough capital. But I mean, like I don't even know what's the right answer to, because like I don't want to whatever I say may not land right, so I would rather not say anything. But anyway, I think that I leave it at that. That's definitely a challenge, and it is killing some of the small businesses and some of the ideas out there. So I really empathize with that. Yeah.
All right. Kelly, you want to wrap it? You opened? You wrap?
Yeah, sure. My last closing comment on this is simply that business, no matter how great your business is, it doesn't run on goodwill. You have to make sure that you're getting paid for your products and services. Some of the best advice that was ever given to me, and as somebody who always tries to make a difference everywhere I go, and sometimes to my own detriment, was this. Always, if somebody offers you money for something, never say no, right? If someone's like, if someone offers to pay you, always say yes, no matter what the situation is. You will have lots of time to give goodwill when you're a multimillionaire living your life in Cabo. But initially, don't turn down offers for help, and don't be afraid to ask for help, okay? All right. That takes us to the end of 22. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Later, hustlers.
Later.
Later.